Vulture and welcome to the Talking Blarney podcast, where we call out Hollywood for its paddywhackery in films and TV about Ireland. My name is Stuart McNamara, and I'm here with my co-host, Rod Cross.
Close enough. Hello, everyone.
I'm getting there, Rob. I'm getting there.
Yeah. Oh well. So, Stu, what are we doing this week?
Well, I think we'll start off with our little segment, Uniquely Irish.
Well, of course.
In which today we're going to talk about one of Ireland's greatest food groups, the Tato.
Yes. I suppose, they're crisps, or if you're an American, chips.
Yeah, we have that distinction, so...
We sure do. I suppose, Tato is, I would say, quintessentially the Irish crisps, would you say?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, it's everywhere, we eat it all the time.
We take this very seriously. We have a theme park.
Oh, we do. I have a bit of the information about the theme park.
Yeah. I mean, to give people, there's Mr. Tato as the mascot for this. He's very... I would say quite a well-recognised Irish figure.
Yeah, I mean, you compare him to the likes of Mr. Pringle, say, in terms of popularity and recognisability.
Chester Cheeto on the Cheetahs in America.
Yeah, I suppose.
Something like that.
So actually, it was founded in 1954.
Mm-hmm.
Been around for quite a long time. I'm pretty sure all of our parents would have never lived in a Tato-less world.
Tato-less world. It's such a horrible thing to make. Just like, oh, we got some King crisps.
And then the really weird thing is that there's the Northern Irish variety of Tatos.
Most people don't know there's two varieties of Tatos. There's one in the north and one in the south, which kind of goes well into this whole film here.
Yeah, it kind of ties together quite well.
It kind of ties together quite well. The war wasn't over Tatos in the north, though. We'll talk about that in a bit.
No. But the funny thing is, Northern Ireland Tato Company actually licensed the recipe and name from us, so it's actually the same.
And if you wouldn't notice the difference if you see the two different packets, and the Mr. Tato as well is slightly different, but they're the same crisps. I've had both of them. They're the same.
Yeah, absolutely delicious. Some other crisps that they make that will bring you back to your childhood right away.
Oh yeah.
We have chickadees.
Never liked them.
Bacon fries. Mighty Munch.
No.
Chipsticks.
Yes.
I thought we were losing you there for a sec, Rob. We're never going to get to one that you liked. Then we have waffles.
Oh, I don't think I've ever had those.
Those are the circular crisscross shapes.
Oh, I know. I don't think I've ever had them, though.
I think they're bacon flavour.
Yeah. Don't know.
Then we have wheelies.
They were okay.
And Johnny Onion Rings.
They were lovely.
Oh, I love all of those.
I remember the snacks one. They were really nice.
Yeah.
They were my favourite. And of course, if you're getting Tato's, it's cheese and onion is the preferred one.
Yeah. I mean, salt and vinegar is okay, but come on.
I'm definitely in a minority that I absolutely hate vinegar.
It's not bad, but I don't like a heavy amount of it. But then, what would you say to an old Tato sandwich now?
Oh, I'm very partial to a Tato sandwich there, Stu. I think Americans would look at us in a funny way when you put crisps or chips in a sandwich. You're damn right we do.
Yeah. What you'll realise is that it's actually delicious. 2 slices of white bread, a lot of butter, and a packet of Tatos.
What would now when I do it? Now I think Stu this might be controversial, Stu. So I'll use the bread. I use mayo.
Mayo.
And a bit of cheese. Grated cheese. Then the Tatos go in.
You're talking about something more gourmet than
I'm just saying. Just saying it's give it a go. Give it a go.
At some point, but oh god. Plain bread and butter and Tatos for me.
I'll tell you, if the pub would charge €9 for that, I'd be in there.
Now, Rob, another thing. Do you remember Mr. Tato's autobiography?
I know it existed. Did Frank Kelly write this or something? Because I think I saw him in...
I think he was included in it in some way.
Yeah.
So it's the incredible story of one man's journey from the tilling fields of Ireland to become the nation's top potato. It's called The Man Inside the Jacket, which is great. An entire autobiography. That's how much we love this food. And as Rob said, we also have the Tato Park, which is a huge theme park dedicated entirely to crisps.
Yeah, I mean, it's not entirely crisp themed. There are roller coasters.
Oh, well, of course.
Other things there, but it's, it's like Disney.
Branded, yeah. Instead of Disney, which has all of the Disney princesses, Star Wars, it's just loads of Tato.
Mm-hmm.
Started in 2010 in County Meath. It has Ireland's only wooden roller coaster, the Cú Chulainn.
I believe after this lovely pandemic lockdown ends, they're starting construction on a much larger roller coaster, which should be interesting. I think it's opening sometime next year, so get your tickets booked.
Once again, not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
The last thing then they have is actually a zoo. And what I'm really
curious... They have a zoo?
Yeah, they have a zoo. And what I'm curious about is which of the animals enjoy Tatos.
I think it's a fair point. My old dog did occasionally eat Tatos. She certainly didn't dislike them.
Yeah, of course not.
I don't know if you could feed them. I mean, those are just fried potatoes, so I mean, probably necessarily bad for anyone, but
Sure, they probably have offcuts or something at the potato factory.
like a pig would eat it, I'd say.
Not the most exciting animal at a zoo, Rob, but to each their own.
Just like what you see at the zoo, Rob. There were some pigs, a few cows. You just wander around the farm. I might have.
All right. Now into the movie for the week, The Foreigner. So it's based on the book The Chinaman by Stephen Leather. And it's the story of Ngoc Minh Quan. Apologies.
We're not Vietnamese, I'm sorry. We're Irish. Like, we're doing our very best here.
Yeah, he was a Vietnamese Special Forces operative who moved to London with his daughter Fan. While going to purchase a dress, she is caught in an IRA bombing, killing her. Now Quan must use all of his Special Forces skills to hunt down the people responsible for her death, including threatening former IRA member and current Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland. Pretty big movie.
Yeah, it is.
I think the first thing we should address is a bit about the IRA and the conflict in the North before we get into it. At some point in the future, we will do a total episode on all of the information, but this is just kind of an overview.
Yeah, and it's important to kind of say here that myself and Stu are both from, the South, if you will, the Republic of Ireland. We're both from, I wouldn't really say a nationalist background per se. We didn't really grow up when the Troubles were bad.
We're much more southern than any counties which would have actually come into contact with the Troubles as they were known.
You might disagree with kind of our view on this, but when we were quite young, the kind of peace deal started and it kind of put generally an end to a lot of this. In the simplest way I can condense 800 years of history down to. And on the island of Ireland, there is the Republic of Ireland, not just Ireland is its legal name, which consists of 26 counties on the island. This is a separate country. It's been independent since 1922, and it's been a republic and completely separate from the United Kingdom, England, basically, since 1949. Now, the other 6 counties on the island in the north, called Northern Ireland, are part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and they're not part of this country. And they were partitioned in 1920 while we were fighting for our independence from the British Empire. And due to the British planters planting people there, generally Protestant, to kind of change the Irish population up there. And that was very effective, as opposed to the rest of Ireland, which was overwhelmingly Catholic. Now, out of that, you have a unionist community which want to stay part of the United Kingdom, want Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom, and a nationalist community who would rather join up with the 26 counties in the rest of Ireland as one independent Irish Republic. So that's kind of as simple as I can make it. Skipping over a lot there.
I think to condense it down a bit, a long time ago, the UK did what it does and colonised its closest neighbour, Ireland.
Yes, yeah.
We weren't happy with that, and so have been fighting back ever since.
Yep.
And so in recent times, after the 1920s, when we had most of the island back through many, many years of fighting for our independence, a group of, some would say freedom fighters, some would say terrorists, were trying to get back those extra 6 counties that we had ceded to get autonomy for the rest of the island. And so that's kind of where the Troubles came in.
We were actually fighting for what was known as Home Rule, which is pretty much, okay, we're happy having the king or queen as the nominal head of state, but we want our own parliament in Dublin, but we'll still let the UK take care of some defence and money and that kind of thing. It was just after we had a failed rising in 1916 during the First World War that when the leaders were executed, it kind of polarised it to, we're not just going to take that anymore. We want full independence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of an overview. Yeah. Not as much information as you need.
But we'll go into it in the future. Sorry if you're going to dump a lot of this on people, but we have to kind of just get it out of the way that,
Yeah, cut it off at the start so that
we'll cut it
you know what's going on. Well, the first thing to talk about is the director. Now, have you heard of Martin Campbell before?
I have, because I know he did Casino Royale, the Bond film, and he did GoldenEye as well.
Two of them. He did GoldenEye and Casino Royale. He also did The Mask of Zorro, and his first movie, which I have to read out the description of because it's actually hilarious, is called The Sex Thief.
Okay.
Grant Henry, a writer of trashy paperbacks like The Dirty and the Dying, moonlights as a masked jewel thief who is usually caught in the act but is able to get away with his crimes by luring his female victims to bed. After these women lie to the police about the thief's identity, in brackets, who could disguise himself as a club-footed, collared midget, 1 week, and a 6'6" Russian with a hair lip the next, close brackets.
Can we review this film?
And seem to want to get burgled again. The inspector in charge of the case and an insurance investigator trained in kung fu decide to lay the trap for the thief. Brilliant. I cannot believe
I
have
to look this up.
Hilarious.
Please tell me there's like an Irish person in it that we can swing it and do it for this.
I hope so. I will find one if not. And one other movie that he did, which will get a bit of a reaction from some of the audience members, Green Lantern.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's the really bad one.
Yeah.
With Ryan Reynolds. So
I've heard it's bad. I haven't seen it, so...
So The Foreigner was actually the movie he did after Green Lantern. So clearly from a bad movie to something I enjoyed. I know Rob didn't, and we'll get into that
I didn't
later on.
Like this too much.
The stars of the movie, obviously, the main star we have is Jackie Chan playing, once again, I'm going to butcher this, Ngak Min Kwan. So beyond just naming out a few of his roles, I thought I'd ask Rob to name as many as he could remember.
Oh, well, I mean, obviously his most seminal work, the Jackie Chan Adventures cartoon, that's by far the best. I remember it was Rumble in the Bronx, which is one of his earlier Hong Kong films. I've seen a dubbed version of that before he did his own English roles. The dubbing is very bad. They also dubbed the American actors, which I don't get in that film.
That's weird.
It is weird, yeah. I'm like, I think these guys probably speak English.
I would assume so. I'd hope so.
Because they're like dubbed with American accents. It's really confusing.
The wrong accent.
Anyway, it's a good film, but watch the subtitle version is my advice to you. Drunken Master?
I think so, yeah.
I think so, yeah. Oh, the cowboy ones with Owen Wilson. Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights.
Very good.
Was he Rush Hour? No, that's... Sorry, this isn't Rush Hour, is it?
Rush Hour.
Grand.
Remember the other two. There are two sequels to that movie.
Rush Hour 2 and 3.
Hey, there we go, Rob.
He was in an awful film called The Tuxedo.
Yep.
I remember seeing that in the cinema when it came out. Do not watch that film. That is abysmal. He's done a lot of films, hasn't he?
I mean, we could go through way more, but let's just cap it at that. He's done a lot, and he's an excellent actor, and in this, he gives another standout performance. So the other main lead, really, then is Pierce Brosnan as Liam Hennessy, who's basically playing Jerry Adams.
I think, we can kind of say that Jerry Adams himself kind of said on Twitter, I didn't realise Pierce Brosnan was so handsome when he saw like a picture of him, and it's kind of hard not to say it. Look, it's clearly inspired by him, certainly.
Quite a lot.
Although, of course, Jerry Adams was never in the IRA, so that it's obviously a fictional backstory.
As far as we know.
Well, he said he wasn't still.
Okay. So yeah, we all know Pierce Brosnan. He's been in multiple James Bond movies. Then we have Michael McAlachlan.
I like how we struggled with the Vietnamese name and also an Ulster Scots name.
It's an odd one, as Jim Kavanagh.
I will say, I know these guys are kind of from Northern Ireland, and some of the names you get in Northern Ireland are a bit different from the rest because there's more of a Scottish kind of influence there.
It just caught me there. I thought I'd be able to read it out fine.
I've never met someone with that name before. Maybe it is a Northern Ireland thing, and I'm not getting it, but that's the first time I've ever heard that name.
Yeah, and he played Roose Bolton in Game of Thrones, so another really great actor Rob wouldn't know because he hasn't really watched Game of Thrones.
I did recognise him from bits and bobs. I couldn't
quite
place
he's been in
it.
a few movies. Then we have Charlie Murphy as Maggie Dunn, who was in Love, Hate, and Jessie Eden in The Peaky Blinders.
I thought she was good. It was funny, when I saw the name Charlie Murphy, I was like, isn't that Eddie Murphy's brother who is in the Dave Chappelle show? And I was like, that
would be a get now for this
That
movie.
would be an interesting casting choice.
Orla Brady as Mary Hennessy, who I recognised because she plays a Romulan with an Irish accent in Star Trek Picard.
Oh.
Which is weird. Very weird to see a Romulan with an Irish accent.
Well, we're not reviewing that because she's in it.
No, there's another reason we're going to review an episode of Star Trek at some point.
Oh, yeah.
It's not that one.
It's not that one.
So then we have Ray Fearon as Commander Richard Bromley. The most he's known for really is on Coronation Street. He was on 75 episodes of that.
I didn't really recognise his other work. I thought he was fine in this film. I just didn't really see him from anywhere else.
And then we had Dermot Crowley as Hugh McGrath, who was actually in Return of the Jedi as Crix Mandine. And
Father Ted.
Father Ted as Father Liam Deliverance.
So Dancing Priest, isn't it?
Yes, I believe so. Big names there. Great cast. Really, it is quite a spectacular.
I think it is.
For the movie.
I mean, obviously Jackie Chan is fantastic, and Pierce Brosnan, good actor.
Oh, of course.
I will have some critiques of his performance, but that's
that's down the line.
We'll get to that.
So now we'll go into our highlights, and we'll start with spoiler free, so anyone who hasn't seen it yet can listen away. The first thing I wanted to point out is that just after the explosion, we know there's an explosion, Jackie kind of looks like your man Diamond Face from Die Another Day.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm sure. I don't know if that was an intention. I'm pretty sure Martin Campbell didn't direct Die Another Day. But
so when the explosion happens, Jackie Chan gets a load of glass stuck in his face, and he looks exactly like the North Korean character who gets diamonds blasted into his face in Die Another Day, and that was Pierce Brosnan movie. So I thought it was a strange little connection there.
It is, and surely you take the diamonds out of your face. I mean, how difficult? Because he's getting sorry to go on a slight tangent here, but I mean, he's getting genetic things in the movie to stop looking Korean and look more English, but they don't take the diamonds out of his face, even though they've obviously shaved his head and. Well,
look, the bling. Stuff. I mean, you got to keep them.
I mean, I grant you, it's certainly an expensive look, absolutely, but I don't know.
It was, it's just funny. What did you think yourself, Rob? Any highlights?
The highlights of the film for me were just anything where Jackie Chan was fighting. I know he's a bit older than he was.
Oh yeah, he still goes.
But the thing about Jackie Chan is obviously he does a lot of his own stunts. I think he did a few bit less in this film because
I'm pretty sure he did all of his stunts in this. Okay, what I read online.
But he's very good at choreographing fights. I think that's kind of the real strength of this film is. He does really intense fights in close quarters and everything else. I mean, the bit towards the end where he's fighting the guys in the apartment, that's a fantastic, quick, brutal scene. I love the fight with Sean when he's tracking him in the woods.
Oh, yeah.
That's Liam
Hennessy's nephew.
Yeah. I love that fight bit where they go over the log and stuff like that, and it's really good.
Yeah, he apparently trained with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu expert for months.
Yeah.
To be at the level of Jackie Chan.
Absolutely, but I think every bit that he's fighting or anything like that is brilliant, and I really do like the when he meets Quan meets Liam Hennessy in the first scene. I think that's probably the best acting bit in the film that isn't action. I just like the whole interaction. He's kind of Quan is really coming off as kind of the John Rambo with a bit of the Charles Bronson's character from Death Wish, and I think it's probably Brosnan's best acting in the film, just kind of being stoic and kind of pie-faced. I think it comes off very well.
Jackie sells the heartbreak of it so well.
It's very good scene there.
When we're so used to seeing Jackie Chan in comedic roles, to see how much he can do in a dramatic role like that is something else.
I mean, we don't want to spoil it, but there is a very heartbreaking scene towards the start of the film, which it's in the trailers. I mean, if you don't know that his daughter dies.
I said it in the overview, so I think we're good. I mean, it's kind of a pivotal point.
If you haven't watched the first 20 minutes of the film, or seen the trailers.
I mean, it's not called Jackie brings his daughter to get dressed and nothing happens.
So basically his daughter dies, and it is quite a heartbreaking scene, because the thing is, you know what's going to happen, and it still catches you off guard, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, for really knowing the daughter so little, you really feel for her after the fact, even though it's almost... So, the very start, he just picks her up from school and they go straight to get this dress for, I assume, a prom of some kind.
I think it was basically she was graduating and going to college. I think it was for that.
Something like that, anyway. Maybe graduation.
Maybe I got that wrong.
But and so it's really quickly, I mean, she's only there in the car and then she's gone.
Yeah.
And it's very, very quick. But you still get that through Jackie almost. Yeah. You get that really sad feeling for both of them.
I think, too, one thing I do like about this film, one of the things that makes it kind of stand out is Jackie Chan and Pierce Brosnan were both cast against type.
Fair.
If you kind of get what I mean, because Jackie is playing this effectively a straight kind of badass role. Whereas even in the other films where he's kicking people's asses, there's still a bit of comedy there, kind of a bit of comedic timing. There isn't really any comedy at all in this film, I don't think. And in kind of another kind of comparison thing with Pierce Brosnan, usually cast as the good guy.
True.
I mean, the thing is, I actually watched Mamma Mia with my girlfriend yesterday, where obviously he's playing a very different character in Mamma Mia, but it kind of gives you an idea of his range as an actor, and him being this anti-hero, maybe you could say. I don't know if he's explicitly the bad guy in this.
Yeah.
But it's not normally what he'd play, and I will credit him for that, at least.
Yeah, with Jackie, I suppose you'd compare it to the likes of Robin Williams when he played some more dramatic roles.
I can definitely think there's a fair point to that, yeah.
Because obviously you think of him as the comedian, but then he can throw it out or hit it out of the park When
knock it out of the park.
Whichever one. We're not American. We don't know baseball terms.
He got those ins into a touchdown.
Pretty much. Another thing that I thought was good, but I assume you'll shout me down for, is that the overall kind of portrayal of the IRA was pretty good.
This is where I had issues.
They had the kind of tattoos that you'd associate with them.
I think yes and no. I think I really take issue with this film for many reasons. Firstly, I just didn't enjoy it overall. I'll just say that now. I thought the pacing was all over the shop. I felt the actions were really well done, but it was just too much in between them. Fair. I felt that really dragged it down. I didn't find a lot of the other characters compelling. I felt there were too many IRA characters almost that had too much of a backstory. I found it almost like I had to watch this in more than one sitting. I found it hard to follow at times, and I think it could have been. I don't know if it's the director or I haven't read the book. I will say that I think maybe the book does a better job of it, but I just thought it had a great idea, like Jackie Chan is just a badass kicking the crap out of people, and the IRA are there. Fair enough, but the execution just fell. I think if you made it shorter and cut out some of the talking bits, it could be a better film.
Yeah, well, that is always a trouble when you're translating a book to a movie, is how much to take out and how much to keep in. So I suppose there is that level to it. But
I mean, just to get onto your point, sorry, Stu, about just the portrayal of the IRA, not inaccurate, I suppose. It kind of gets on the topic that Liam Hennessy's character is like he's the deputy first minister. The title seems to change a lot.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I had a few issues with it as well that I'll talk about in spoilers. But overall, in
effect, it sort of says like, oh, he's was in the IRA. He's obviously gone down the political route, that is true. We do have a power sharing thing in the north, which is like between unionists and nationalists, and people who take neither side, and that's people who did do terrible things in the past, were involved in the Troubles, are now going down the path of peace and basically going down the political route, which is, and I think that is not an inaccurate portrayal.
Yeah,
but I just felt the overall presentation of the IRA is like, oh, they're really there secretly and stuff like that. I felt is a little bit disingenuous that I'm like there are dissident Republicans who call themselves the IRA still active. Don't get me wrong. I just felt that the scale that was being put forward in this film is a bit inaccurate, and
you have to expect a certain amount of hyperbole in. I movie
think
anyway.
So. I mean, I'm willing to say, of course, I can suspend my disbelief and watch a film. I just felt with the way it was being presented is, in particular, because there is a point I'll make that a lot of this film was funded from China, and it was like released to a Chinese audience.
Yeah, you could notice a little bit of that.
There was a bit, and there's a couple of other little bits where I think there were some accommodations made for like a non-Irish audience.
I think at one point I noticed someone pulls a beer out of the fridge, and I thought it was going to be a Bulmers.
Yeah.
And it was a Cobra, and I was like, who drinks Cobra?
I don't know anywhere you'd even get Cobra on tap in Ireland.
It's just like it had the same bottle and the same kind of gold mesh around the top.
There's also,
but it was actually a Cobra beer.
I think there's also a point in the film where I think someone says, have a proper whiskey, like have a Jameson single malt.
Yeah, I was going to point that out in trivia. At that time, there was no Jameson single malt.
Also,
now they have method and madness.
They do, yeah, but I will say that I don't know if anyone would even refer to Irish whiskey as a single malt. It's not inaccurate, but I would refer to Scotch certain types of Scotch that way, not Irish whiskey. But at least they got like Jameson is like the Irish whiskey, and then the Bushmills would be the Protestant Irish.
Yeah,
I think they got that the other way around. I mean, that's
in certain aspects. One other part that I just found kind of weird is at one point the IRA bombers who called in that they were the ones who blew up the bank that they were attacking called themselves the Authentic UDI, which I didn't understand, but I found it funny that they made it an acronym that way, because if they had all of the letters in acronym, it would have spelled Audi.
Audi. It's the Germans all along.
I don't know why they decided to call it the UDI. The only thing I could find online is Unilateral Declaration of Independence.
From Rhodesia, I would presume.
But
yeah, that's not
that's definitely what they called themselves at the time.
That's another thing as well. I will just say, like, now I have a reasonable understanding of Irish history, I think. Yeah. And UDI I'm not familiar with any time that's been used. You could perhaps argue when we declared our parliament, which was sitting in exile and hiding from the British, declared independence, you could say that is technically a universal declaration of independence, though we don't call it that. But in terms of groups up there was the UDA, which is the Ulster Defence Association, which was a unionist group and there's plenty of them. So that it's an unusual.
It was just a strange one.
I just found it very odd. That I mean, maybe that's for like a foreign audience, but people know that like IRA more than they would UDI.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
I just thought it was weird. Look, that's what I'd say.
There's IRA graffiti everywhere, isn't there? I mean, there's everywhere in Ireland anyway. I assume it's the same in all other countries. So I suppose now we'll get on to some spoilers. So cut here if you want to actually go and watch the movie and then come back, or just listen on. What did you think? Any spoilerific things that you want to mention?
Well, I mean, I will say I don't know if this is necessarily a spoiler, but one of my favourites in the film, which I thought was really, I guarantee Jackie Chan did this bit, was where he's fighting the guys in the house, and like he jumps into the little kind of loft area when they come into the bedroom.
Oh yeah,
and he kicks his way out of the roof tiles.
Oh yeah. So,
I really like that bit, I must say.
Yeah, I mean it's classic Jackie Chan. I mean he's hiding out in a B&B in Belfast. For some reason, the old lady who runs it gives him up or something, or at least opens the door for all the IRA lads.
I presume it's like she knew she was on the take with them or something. It's not really explained. I presume let's just say maybe it was her cousin was one of the guys there.
Possibly, it was odd, but Jackie just does his thing.
It's a great fight
scene. I mean, he actually did that scene where he jumps off the roof onto a pole and slides down it and jumps back in through one of the windows. That's great. I mean, I gotta say, I will praise the action scenes in this film completely. They're very well done. But I just love that. I would never have even thought in my own mind of, I have to get away from people. I'd kick through the bloody roof tiles and jump out in the roof. That's just, I love that bit. I watched that scene 3 times. That's really good. If I can talk more about this story, I think firstly, I thought it was very convoluted at times. There's too many characters introduced. There was a bit. I mean, near the start, you have the clumsy IRA lad who drops his keys and then reveals the one revealing characteristic that gets him caught for the rest of the movie. Yeah, it's just stupid. Whereas, he has a burn mark on his hand, and he drops the keys, picks it up, and it's that's it, we found out who it is, because he has a burn mark. Also, just, I don't know, Liam's wife, that's Mary, isn't it? Sorry. Yeah, it is. And obviously his nephew is Sean, who he brings over, and Sean and Mary are having an affair. Yeah. Now, Sean is Liam's nephew, and now it doesn't imply which side of the family he's on, but I would have to assume it's on Liam's side. Yeah, as I'm just saying, I read other views online that do use the I word to describe what they're doing, and I'm I don't think that's the case. It's still weird. It is weird, yeah. I mean, I know that SNL kind of had a few jokes about Ireland being a weirdly incestuous country. Yeah, I don't do that. No, I would say that's just what kind of really caught me off guard. That's very odd. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if is that something that people associate with Ireland outside of Ireland? Please leave a message. Well, I've never heard of that, but that's we'll definitely find out if we keep doing these movies. I just found that was very odd. And as I was saying, spoiler, and then she was actually behind the whole time, and I'm she was, because her brother was killed by the UVF, and Liam Hennessy let them off. He didn't kill them before getting to trial. Yeah, and I can understand, fair enough. It's there's kind of a parallel there between Kwan's daughter dying and your brother and Mary's brother dying. But at the same time, surely if you're basically a former IRA commander and you're currently the head of the Republican political thing in Northern Ireland, and it's your wife doing this, I think you'd probably know about it beforehand. Yeah, you'd hope so anyway. I just thought it fair enough as a reveal. Oh, it's shocking, and then one of his mates is in it, but I just felt that kind of really came out of nowhere. I didn't particularly like that as a twist. Because everyone thinks, Liam was going to do it. So I think Liam is kind of not exactly innocent, but at the same time he's not the main bad guy, which I think at least that's fine, but I just didn't particularly like that. For me, I thought it was good just in terms of there was a lot of showing and not telling, where with Jackie's character, he's ex-special forces during the Vietnam War. So once he decides that he's going to go off and find out who killed his daughter, he goes to Belfast. And you can see that he's just driven. He gets a load of equipment from a Wickes, which is a homeware store. Yeah. Goes over there and creates a little bomb in the toilets. And it's only maybe an hour into the film that it's actually revealed that he was special forces. So you really see how good he is. And then later on, it's kind of, this is how he gets it. Yeah, and I think it's
the kind of reveal, if you haven't like read the book or anything, it is kind of interesting that he does have that kind of background, because I suppose it's not the way you'd immediately think.
Yeah.
And it kind of adds this badass thing, and I found it kind of interesting. I think like he gives a fantastic performance in this film, Jackie Chan. I won't take away from that. That's the highlight for me.
I love the one scene where he goes science guy and starts making nitroglycerin in the B&B. He's got the glasses on, he's like big tubs of ice and stuff.
I mean, I really like that those bits, and the tracking scenes as well, where he's going around Liam's massive estate.
Oh yeah,
and then he has the other guys after him is really good.
As you said earlier on, like it's something out of Rambo. Like he is just a one man army killing everyone.
I mean, I cannot praise.
Well, actually, I should say he kills no one except for the people who actually planted the bomb that killed his daughter.
Yes, that's a fair point, and also like he's arguably defending himself against the other guys, so it's I found it really funny at one point where he's like, in the stables in Liam Hennessy's little farm. Yeah,
because there's just a guy there, and I swear to God, I called him Discount Jason Statham. Exactly. If you're watching the movie, you'll see that there's one guy. He just looks like Discount Jason Statham. It's like, we can't get Statham, so we got this guy instead. And they hog tie him.
It's pretty funny. I think it'd be like Jason Statham was in that film where like he uses a hurley as a weapon.
Yeah, we'll try to get to that one if we can find enough in it to warrant.
Oh, there's nothing Irish. He just has a hurley for some reason.
We'll just do that clip. We'll do the whole episode on that one clip and praising it to high heaven.
Can I talk about Pierce Brosnan's performance as Liam Hennessy?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay, I like Pierce Brosnan as an actor. He is one of my second favourite Bond. I even like myself, I say myself and the girl watched it. My girlfriend made me watch Mamma Mia last night, and I thought he gave a good performance in it. By no means is he a fantastic singer, but as we've seen from our first episode, neither Sean Connery, so not exactly a bad thing. I like him as an actor. I think his Northern Irish accent in this film was atrocious.
Yeah?
I thought it wasn't great. Now, Pierce Brosnan is Irish.
Yeah.
I mean, he grew up, like, he left Ireland when he was quite young in the UK, but he effectively grew up around Navan. He does have an Navan accent he can speak with, but I presume he was going for like a West Belfast accent.
I would have just assumed he was doing Jerry Adams as much as he could within the limits of slander and.
Yes. Yeah, so I think it's kind of a case where like Pierce Brosnan has an Irish accent anyway, and that's fine, but I think it just didn't sound right, and I think like maybe to an international audience it sounded fine, but I thought, it just sounded a little bit off, particularly as he's someone who's Irish. I think that maybe it could have been changed a bit.
At the same time, it is something that has become a theme throughout our episodes, that Irish people trying to do different Irish accents
doesn't work.
Is difficult at the very least, and as you said, doesn't work.
Because I think the thing about it is that for a small island, as we said before, we have a lot of different accents.
We definitely have a lot of accents.
Even within cities like Dublin and Belfast, there's multiple different accents. And I shut over. So for some reason, people from one part of the country sometimes struggle to do an accent from another part of the country. Yeah,
without making it kind of almost a lampooned, cartoony version of that accent.
Like we can all do like our Northern Irish accent or like a North Dublin accent, but we can't do it properly, and it'll just sound like
anyone else from Ireland would be able to tell that you're not actually from there while doing it.
So I mean, I thought his performance was good. I just felt the accent wasn't quite right, and maybe it's something that only Irish people notice.
Probably enough for an international audience.
I will say, like, there was a lot of the actors were actually Irish in this that were playing like the IRA people and like Marion. I didn't really take as much an issue with some of their accents. I thought not all of them had northern accents.
Yeah.
There was definitely the younger fella in the bomber guy. He had a southern accent. Definitely. Was he in Kieran, I think, was it? Or?
Possibly.
I think it was a bit hard to keep track of the names, and I think Mary's accent was fine as well. So I think, like, overall, these were Irish actors. I think that was fine. Obviously, they had to kind of insist on Northern Irish accents because of people associate that with this kind of thing. But yeah, it was fine. I'm not going to even comment on Jackie Chan's accent. I have no idea if that's an accurate Vietnamese accent, but we're
definitely not the people.
We're not the people. But to say.
Well, no, because he came to Vietnam through China, so it would have been a Chinese accent.
I think it's actually just one thing I will just note. It was a little bit unclear is he ethnically like Chinese or is he Vietnamese? I'm not.
Well, considering the name of the book is The Chinaman. Yeah. And they say it about 6 times in the movie.
They do, yeah.
And it's like every time, just roll credits. They've said The Chinaman, it's time to...
So I think that's... Maybe it is clarified, I just missed it, but I think it's... Yeah, either way, I think he is a good character. Definitely relatable in a way.
One of my favourite scenes was definitely just him doing car exercises in the mountains.
Yeah, that was something.
Just like working out with the door and then pushing his little truck up a hill.
That's not an Irish thing, I'll say that. I've never seen it.
I know, but it just looked great.
It did look great, it was odd. Interesting choice. What did you think as well just about the kind of main plot where, like, obviously the IRA kind of bombing things again, which is...
From what you get in the movie, it is a little complicated.
Yeah.
And it's hard to follow, but I think the plan was that Liam Hennessy wanted to use bombings where no one was killed.
Yeah.
To help get IRA members who were in jail
out of it.
Out.
Yeah, I got that much, but I just thought...
But Dermot Crowley's character was kind of going rogue.
Yeah.
And wanted to actually kill British people to elevate it.
I think this is just one of the things I did have as an issue. Now, not to say that the IRA didn't kill innocent people in bombings in the UK. Of course they did. There's many instances of that, and I don't want to take away from that. And I don't want to be defending the IRA. I want to make that very clear. I don't support their aims or...
I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to say...
Yeah,
I'm going to have it say that you highly support the IRA.
It's just like... there's a thing, like, these... innocent people dying, like, particularly when they bomb, effectively it's a copy of the Harrods bombing attack at the start of the film, then they blow up the double-decker bus, and then they're talking about killing a member of the cabinet. I think the Home Secretary, I don't think it's clarified, like, with the laptop bomb, which I thought was an interesting concept, the laptop bomb thing, and putting it on the plane like that. It didn't really go for innocent targets generally. It would always be targets of military value, and...
Yeah, well, they were trying to go for the bank.
Yes.
But it was weird that rather than waiting until they got a better parking spot, they decided to park right in front of the dress shop, which was next to the bank.
It's just kind of a bit off, and I think as well what the IRA are kind of... Well, one of the things they were known when it came to bombings was they would generally do a warning. They'd ring up to the cops and kind of say, look, we're going to let off a bomb in Belfast city centre in 15 minutes. You have the time to evacuate. And they give like a code word, which would be, oh, we know it's them. So we know it's serious. We have to evacuate. It's not a prank call. Like, they did do like no warning bombs. Like, I think that's just something that, particularly people like my parents' generation who grew up, you would have known that warning would be in and then they'd have to evacuate the area. So I felt that was a bit jarring, and I think it isn't... I'm not saying that hasn't happened in the past, or, you know, we haven't done that, but I felt it was a bit maybe different or maybe inaccurate, and I want to kind of just mention that because I think it is worth mentioning.
Definitely. One thing that I thought about with this movie, just kind of got the gears turning in my head, is the idea of this movie kind of being Vietnamese guerrilla warfare versus
Irish guerrilla
warfare. And I think that they should either have a series of movies or like a Hunger Games where they just have various guerrilla fighters versus other...
They did do
this. They did?
They did. I think it was the History Channel or National Geographic. They did like these shows, and it was like a bunch of people, like it was like Roman centurions versus like Greek soldiers, and they did ones like the Mafia versus East End gangsters, and they did one with the IRA versus the Taliban.
Nice. That's exactly what I was thinking.
The IRA won.
Of course the IRA won. We invented guerrilla warfare. No. When I say we, I mean Irish people.
Damn it, Stu.
Not we, the IRA.
It's like, geez, this Talking Blarney podcast when you do an IRA recruitment tool, so sure I didn't even know this.
Oh, God. We're going to get arrested.
I will say, I'm pretty sure it's up on YouTube. You can look up I can't remember what the thing was called.
Yeah, but I want like a big budget Hollywood series of movies or Hunger Games style movie.
It was just great though, because it was like 5 and 5, and they each had their own unique weapon. And one of the unique IRA weapons was a flamethrower.
That makes no sense, but okay.
And he just incinerated one of the Taliban guys. And one of the Taliban guys was a suicide bomber, so they already were down like one from the start. And the best thing is, like, how they win it is it gets like 3-on-1. And the IRA guy has his secret is a car bomb. Oh. And then you just see the two Taliban guys in like a caravan because it's taking place in like a junkyard, and he's like realizes, oh no, and he tries to get out, and it just cuts to his eyes and it blows. Oh my God.
Talking of car bombs, I did also enjoy that scene where Jackie just fucks with him by making a fake car bomb and showing just how close it could have been. Like, he didn't wire it up so that it would blow, but he showed that if he had, it would have been a pretty big explosion. And obviously, car bombs are quite synonymous with the IRA.
Yes.
And as an aside to that, if you ever order an Irish car bomb,
don't do that.
Don't, because that is a horrible thing to do when it's associated with the deaths of innocent people.
don't, like, no one in this country would do that. I've had Americans over here trying to be funny and do that, and it's like, you just go to get some looks and like, what did you just say? That ain't
it's not a good
mate.
thing. But yeah, it was a clever kind of...
Because you think he's going to get blown to bits,
basically. Yeah, but it's a clever kind of holding up the mirror to the IRA when they're so frequently have done it in the past, and he's using it as a scare tactic on them.
I thought more good bits like that, and it's...
Did you think it was weird that all the photographers could get so close to the carnage at the very start?
Yes.
I mean, they have people blasted apart just out in the street.
And they're just there taking
pictures. And the photographers
pictures.
And the news people are just right up against it, and it's...
Like, I thought that wouldn't happen. Like, I mean... I hate to bring up another horrific bombing, but like if you look at the Oma bombing, which was in 98...
they referenced that in the movie.
Yeah, which was... it was kind of when there was a truce on, and Splinter Cell and the IRA went off and kind of blew up this bomb and in Oma as a town in Northern Ireland, and a load of innocent people died, including some children, and there's just this very harrowing footage from it, and you get that kind of vibe off it, and I can remember being very young at the time and remembering bits of that. But otherwise, you wouldn't have photographers in like that.
No, not that.
That was very unrealistic.
It was just strange.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously... Part of that is to set up the camera guy who gets tricked
into taking
by Charlie Murphy's character later on,
which was interesting. But I just felt it was really weird.
I also read that it was highly unrealistic because later on, Charlie Murphy's character puts a bomb in the battery pack
of the laptop,
laptop that's going on a flight to Rome with a bunch of
British government
officials, and so obviously the plan is to kill everyone on the plane. But from what I read, a bomb of that size would have just killed the guy using it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of...
Obviously it's movie magic.
Yeah, I mean, I think because like, it's quite a large explosion when like they throw...
Yeah,
the cops like throw it away.
Huge.
I'm like, Jesus Christ, what? Is that laptop made of Semtex or something?
But from what the experts say anyway, it wouldn't have even damaged the plane that much.
Yeah.
Just superficially.
I think fine, maybe could blow out a window, but... I mean, I don't know, like, if British cabinet people even just fly commercial.
Yeah. I suppose, what did you think of the ending, the climax being Jackie finally catching up to the IRA members who killed his daughter, and then his getting away after the fact?
I really like the fight scene towards the end where, you know, the IRA cell that did this, they're in the apartment, the cops have them under surveillance. Jackie comes in like pretend as like the gas man.
Yeah,
and the thing is, you're just like, oh, there's just this very good tension, and you know something's going to happen, and like it's they empty up the bag, nothing there, and then it's like, oh, it's a fucking machine gun.
Yeah, it's a machine gun wrapped up in some cloth, and then he just grabs it and starts killing.
I really like this scene. This was really intense, really well done. I just like how the gun gets like shot out of his hands, and then he's like, the other guy goes around the corner and he's up in the ceiling. Like, this was brilliant.
It's more classic Jackie. It's kind of weird seeing him using a machine gun. I don't think I've seen him do that kind of... Obviously, he's had pistols in movies before, but he's so well known for doing the martial arts.
I suppose it was interesting.
You couldn't have him without it in that scene. I did find it really funny, though, that their way of hiding all of the bomb-making components is just put a sheet over it.
Yeah.
It's like they're supposed to be, you know, highly trained, in air quotes, IRA members, and their whole plan to hide their bomb-making kit is with a sheet.
Yeah, I mean, like, you kind of guess that, they were kind of caught off guard, but you're about to like do this operation. Yeah. Surely you'd be more prepped than that. I mean, it's just weird. But I thought the ending was grand. I mean,
it got really tense just because what's happening is, I think it's SO15, which is the counter-terrorism task force in the UK, have found out where they are. They're staking out the place. They're ready to go in with their version of the SWAT team. They have shape charges around the floor of the apartment upstairs. They're going to blow and then just drop down. And they have people just outside to burst in through the door. And then Jackie knocks on the fucking door and everything halts. They have no idea what's going on, who's at the door. And then he's murdering them all and they're just trying to figure out what the fuck is happening inside that room. And he escapes before they even get in. Just at the last moment. It's so tense. I really loved it.
I thought it was a great scene. And I guess it kind of ends happily. All the loose ends are tied off. The cops stopped the bombing by torturing her one, which is a bit jarring.
Yeah, I mean, once again,
that is
kind of historically accurate in a sense.
Oh, there is. I mean, I once again, I don't want to imply myself and Stu were in the IRA here. However, when we were in college, we did they did have two people who were falsely accused of being an IRA that did two separate IRA bombings in like the Maguire 7, the Birmingham 6, Birmingham 4.
I cannot remember what number.
Sorry if I get the numbers wrong, but the fact I can't get the numbers wrong because there's so many of them. But there were numerous cases where the British just found a bunch of Irish lads and just said, "Yeah, I think they did the bombing," and made up a load of evidence, like literally and beat the shite out of them, put guns to their heads,
basically forced confessions.
Yeah. So and we met two of them. Yes. They were giving like a speech, and we attended it, and harrowing stories. I think it's fair to say
it was rough. Listening to this.
So definitely that kind of thing happened, although I think it was a bit much when they got killed at the end. I mean, you would presume cops would arrest someone even if they were like that. But I suppose in the context of it, fine. But it's a bit...
I mean, it's not to say that it didn't happen in the past. I wouldn't expect it to happen in the current
kind
era.
Of thing where, like...
See, part of that now is that I think the book was written in, like, 1994.
Yeah, it was before even the first ceasefire in the 90s, yeah.
It could have happened then. I think it should have been changed for the movie because it's not something that would have happened in 2017 when the movie came out.
I think that while we know in the past the British police have lied about these kind of things and covered things up, like, if that was, like, a soldier doing that, that would be a war crime. They'd be off to the Hague. I don't think it's morally justifiable what they did, although I suppose I saw like the kind of reaction lines of people kind of. I looked at YouTube comments and clips about this were like, "Oh, I'm glad she died and she got what's coming to her." I'm not saying she was a good person, but at the same time, I don't think it's
executing a prisoner.
Like then someone who was like severely injured, who you have just tortured information out of, by the way, I don't think that doesn't make you any better than the IRA.
It really doesn't.
And we're going to get in a lot of trouble for this podcast.
Or we're going to get recruited by someone.
Where's Rob? He's off in maneuvers.
Is that a hurry, Rob?
Sure it is.
The last thing then is obviously that in the end they actually leave Jackie go. So his character goes back to his little restaurant, his Chinese restaurant.
I presume I don't think it's implied that's like his wife or kind of his girlfriend.
Rob, you really didn't pay much attention to this movie at all now, did you? Because
I missed something massively here. I know his
wife and two of his daughters.
I know they died by pirates.
But she's just a friend of his.
Yeah.
Who works in
the restaurant. I think it's kind
of
implied that there's a little bit of that going on. I got the vibe anyway.
Possibly. I mean, by the end, definitely, because they start kissing. But
that's what gave it away.
Yeah, it might have been. But like there's
they're such good friends.
There's a red dot on Jackie's head.
Yeah.
Like, they have a sniper trained on him. Yeah. And then Commander Bromley just kind of says, leave him off.
Yeah.
We don't want to poke the bear or something. Or wake the dragon, of course.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Because that's not racist at all.
I mean, sure, obviously it's a 1994 book, so it's going to be a little... But you're about to shoot him in the head. How is that waking the dragon?
Also, I don't think letting him off is... Like, okay, is he morally in the right? Maybe. But he committed terrorism, effectively. Like, he used explosives, like he...
I suppose the real question there is, would the sequence of events in the movie have happened in a similar way if he hadn't been there? Would they have stopped the IRA bombing of the
you raise a fair point, actually. You raise a fair point, because like the cops are onto the cell. It's just that, did he contribute anything to that? And I guess that's a hard question to answer. I think he definitely pushed I think Pierce Brosnan's character to figure out more information. Obviously. Yeah, and I think his wife was killed by Sean, his nephew, as kind of to tie everything up. And then Sean was sent in exile because Sean was he was involved in it, wasn't he? He knew about it.
No, he
that was just because he was having the affair.
Yeah.
Okay,
he unwittingly gave the information away.
I think it's that whole thing where it's almost like there's two parallel kind of things. Like there's a police investigation into the IRA, and then Jackie Chan's one.
With the burn mark on the hand would have caught them.
But would it have got them in time for the explosion? Because that was like right down to the wire almost. But
possibly.
It's kind of hard to say exactly.
It's vague, but there is a chance that his role mightn't have been necessary for him to have gotten caught. I mean, it wouldn't have been as cool without him in there.
I think it's just like him there, flicks on Sky News. Oh, they're all dead. That solves that problem.
Hooray, I better call Liam and thank him.
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, it is actually a fair point. I didn't really think about that, but...
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a fictional story, so...
I hope
it is
so.
what it is. So if it said based on true events, we'd be looking into the history books for this one.
There was one... That's at the end, actually. So.
All right. I think that's all we really have for spoilers, is it?
I can't think of anything else, really.
The other thing then, I suppose, is setting. There were a lot of actual places in London, including the whatever Golden Peacock or Royal Peacock or whatever his restaurant was. Other than that, you have the old Royal Naval College, which I actually recognise because it's in Thor: The Dark World. Yeah. It's like the climax of that movie takes place there, so it kind of pulled me out of it a bit.
I might be incorrect in saying this. I think it's the headquarters used in the film, Tom Cruise, where he's like, they're fighting the aliens. Was that Edge of Tomorrow?
Which is also called Live, Die, Repeat.
Yeah, I had the two names. I think that's the headquarters that they use, or like they escape from at the end. That's what I recognise it from, because I know
England was the base because all of Europe had been taken over.
Yes. So I thought that was kind of it, but anyway, I thought that was it's a nice building.
Yeah, the other big thing to talk about with setting is Belfast and the graffiti that they show.
Yeah, did they actually film that in Belfast? I've been twice. I don't.
I believe part of it was a lot of I think the wood scenes were actually filmed in America.
Because I was thinking that didn't look like an Irish woods or anything. I mean, not to say that.
Yeah, it's not easy to tell, but from what I saw filming locations, there, except for Belfast itself, for maybe some of the exterior scenes.
Yeah, I suppose
really filmed in Ireland.
It was just like I'm not saying there aren't like woods or forests in Ireland. It's just that scene was a bit. I thought it didn't look right. It's kind of hard to explain. Maybe it's just the trees or layout or something. They just looked a bit off. But yeah,
back on track, Rob. The graffiti that they showed in Belfast, which is a really big part of the history of the Troubles in Northern Ireland.
The whole murals on the side of buildings and all that.
You're now entering free dairy and things like that.
Which isn't in Belfast, of course.
I know, but we're talking specifically about the graffiti in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I think that was fair enough. I mean,
yeah, it was good to show it at the very least.
I think I think you can criticize the villain for simplifying things and making it convoluted and not having entirely accurate things. There are little touches like that kind of like, okay, someone with a bit of knowledge obviously made an input into this.
Yeah, but which you would hope for such a
sensitive-ish topic.
Yeah, very sensitive topic. Yeah. So next we'll go on to is some online reviews. So I took a look there on Rotten Tomatoes to see if I could find any interesting reviews. And I found some of the funnier ones, which I'll go through now. So 3 stars. Watch the trailer and you've basically seen everything. Would you agree with that?
Some of the better parts, yeah. I mean, I kind of agree. I didn't like a lot of it.
I mean, I think what that kind of shows is that it's endemic in all movies now, where the trailers do kind of give away a lot.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, just seeing Jackie Chan doing those amazing stunts in the fight scenes, it's kind of worth going through some of the lower parts of the movie to get to.
I more or less agree with that.
Next one, 2.5 stars, The Rage and the IRA.
Okay.
That's all it said.
Fair enough.
Don't know why. 2 stars. Now that I have seen it once, I never need to watch it again.
I'd agree.
Glad I did not spend / wasted money to see it in theatres. Jackie Chan, specifically he says Chan, did pretty good dramatic performance, but movie is way too slow. Not the end leaves you disappointed. That's it.
That's my review, right? Is it?
Very long dramatics, few action. I mean,
that's
what a review.
If you could, I didn't call him Jackie Chan, but I mean, I hope not.
Although, what a cool name, Jackie Chan. Like a video game character,
a wrestler or something. That's kind of how I felt about it. It's not inaccurate.
Okay, last review then. 1 star. What an awful film. I love Jackie Chan, but this was absolute garbage. The main reason The Foreigner fails on all respects is that it's a dull, uninteresting look at politics between the Irish and the British. Movies about politics are never interesting, period. Pierce Brosnan's Irish accent is horrible. It definitely picked that one specifically for you in terms of movies about politics being uninteresting.
I've liked some of them, but I think this one, it isn't an accurate depiction at all about anything about that. I don't think it's massively inaccurate, and if this was like being released in China, I think this is how things still are in Ireland, and particular some of the things. I think that is disingenuous, and I think maybe
I can see that. Then we have a few bits of trivia. So you already caught me on the Jameson single malt, which I was going to ask you to see if you had caught. So well done for you.
I'd always get the whiskey thing.
That's a gold star for Rob. So another thing that they actually got wrong in the movie is that when the IRA bombers call up, they call Northern Ireland, which the IRA would never do. They would call it the north of Ireland specifically.
Yeah, there's a complicated term called Irish Republican legitimacy. They don't recognise the North
Ireland
as being separate, and they also don't recognise this country, Ireland, as being separate either.
Yeah.
They think that because when we signed an agreement with the Anglo-Irish Agreement in 1921 with the Brits to basically have our deal, that it was illegitimate because the representatives were only of the 26 counties, not 32. So they don't recognise either state as legitimate. They feel that their army council is actually the government pending reunification. But that is a lengthy thing we won't go into right now.
Definitely.
There was one other thing I wanted to mention. I read this article this week. I don't know when it came out, but I felt it was relevant to this film. Stu, the IRA, a group of them once went to North Korea to train.
Ooh, not a good look.
No. I will say, because as I said earlier, the IRA split a lot. This was the official IRA, which was the one that was kind of a bit communisty, not the provisional IRA. But,
it's not a good look. I mean, the IRA have done some shady things in the past.
Yeah.
I know at one point, didn't they try to get weapons off of the Nazis?
That's Sean Russell and that's a good thing we don't have a statue of him in Tub. Oh. Yeah,
Rob, we're not starting a political movement here.
But anyway, just to tell the North Korean thing, about 6 of them went over there, and obviously they were kind of more socialist orientated version of the IRA. They'd been kind of bigged up, and the North Koreans seemed to think that they were like a massive army that had tanks and were like really serious, and they said they didn't like it at all because they were like got up at 6 o'clock in the morning. These are like 6 lads from the north. They weren't in fantastic shape for like the drills they were doing, and they said we had to eat
full Northern Irish potatoes.
Yeah, and he said like at one point they had to eat like soup, and it had like, he said it was dog soup, and there was literally, he said there was a chunk of fur in it. I don't know if that's true. But that's what one of the guys said.
No.
I just thought it was worth mentioning because I just felt that was hilarious. And in a way, maybe that was the inspiration behind all of this. That was in
weird,
like 88, I think that happened.
You can write your own book called The Korean Man, and we'll see what happens. Another piece of trivia: in February 2016, 2 reports were made to the London Metropolitan Police about a terrorist attack made on the Lambeth Bridge.
They didn't
after local citizens were not told about the controlled stunt explosion made on the double-decker bus.
That was... that's not the smart thing to do.
That's got to be terrifying for people, that they weren't told about it. I mean, London does get hit quite regularly with terrorist attacks.
I think it's just going to say regularly. There certainly have been a few... Yes, but Jesus, that would be terrifying. I think it's the kind of thing where you'd put up a lot of signs saying, look, this is all pretend.
Oh, you'd want to have people going to the houses to tell these people and calling back to houses that didn't answer.
Jesus Christ.
Especially when it's like a double-decker bus blowing up. I mean...
That happened in 2005, 7/7, yeah. That's...
And the last piece of trivia there I have is, in the movie, Hennessy describes a previous nickname, Butcher of the Bogside, when referencing his terrorist past. However, it was actually, while we know that he was kind of portraying Gerry Adams, but it was actually Martin McGuinness was the Butcher of the Bogside. Yeah,
and Bogside isn't Derry, in case anyone knows. It's the nationalist part of Derry. Like, that's where you have the NDR entering free Derry signs. That's there. That's sort of where the civil rights movement, which transformed into the Troubles, kind of started off.
After all of that, Rob, it's down to the ratings. What do you think? A crock of gold or a crock of shite?
Crock of shite. The action scenes are really good, like Jackie Chan's performance. Pierce Brosnan isn't bad, barring the accent. It's too boring, too hard to follow. I had to watch this in more than one sitting. I watched this in 2017 when it came out, and that was, I think, it was more than one sitting I had to watch that in as well. I did rewatch the action scenes in it because they were good. This time was about 3 sittings, I think. I would not have rewatched this had we not had to do it for the podcast. I really think that if this was re-edited to take out some of that, cut it down, and just have more emphasis on the action scenes, it would be a lot better. I wouldn't strictly recommend this film. I would recommend people look up on YouTube the action scenes. That's what I'd say, but I think this film is boring, not in places, bad pacing, massively inaccurate, as we discussed earlier, and a lot of things I think is not maybe not the message you want to give out about Ireland, but...
Yeah, I'm going to have to say crock of shite as well. While the action scenes kept me invested in the movie just about, there wasn't much else to it, and as we said, quite inaccurate depictions of the IRA in a lot of ways. Not enough filming in Ireland is what I say. Got to get real Irish for it.
There's a fair point to it. I mean, I think if you had more Irish people helping with the writing of it, it wouldn't be as mental as it. But I know because it was funded in large part by Shine, and maybe for like a bit of a mixed audience across the world. Yeah, I get you have to do that.
Apparently, there were longer scenes in the Chinese version as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Not adding a lot of content, but I think there's fight scenes and some other small aspects.
Well, we watched the version on Netflix, I presume, that was the English dub. So.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because it's on Netflix, and that's where we watch it.
Version, yeah, that's what I watched too, Rob. Damn it. Mine didn't have Chinese subtitles at all. So, if you have your own rating or review of the movie, please send it in to us.
If you feel we've misrepresented anything about the history of Ireland or anything like that, please let us know. We did the very best we could. And bear in mind, you're probably going to hear like a condensed cut version that's due this time. We're going to address all of this in much further in a future podcast. We're already working on it now. Please hold your judgment till then. We did the best we could with this.
Yeah. So next week's movie then is going to be The Yank from 2016 with Colm Meaney and Fred Willard. It's going to be out next Monday. We haven't really said it properly in the podcast, but we're going to try to get them out
aiming to have every Monday. This is the first film that I haven't seen, The Yank, so beforehand. So I'll be watching this for the first time as well.
From the trailer, it looks interesting, and we should get a lot of content out of it.
I think it looks good, but I think we have a good few things lined up.
Hopefully. If you'd like to review the show and subscribe on whatever podcast app of your choice, tell a friend, definitely. That always helps out just to build our listenership.
Contact us on Twitter, guys, at BlarneyPod. And you can also email us at talkingblarneypod@gmail.com. So talkingblarneypod, all one word, @gmail.com. It's up on Twitter, though, so you'll see it there.
Yeah, it should be there.
All right, so, Stu, I think we'll agree to disagree in some of that. But overall, pretty meh. Looking forward to The Yank, though.
Yeah, we'll see what that's like. So see you guys next week.
See you then. Take care.